Welcome to Three Takes. I'm Ishana.
I'm Minali.
I'm Mona.
Three women,
Three generations.
One family, unpacking the questions we all ask.
welcome back. Mama and Nava, it's been a while since we've all been in the same time zone. Are you guys jet lagged? You guys both had a long journey back home recently.
So we all came back from India, or like my parents and then me and the twins and my husband. But it's been a couple of weeks for me. But to be honest, whether I'm jet lagged or not, it doesn't make that much of a difference because they're still not sleeping through the night. So the kids, so we're still sleep deprived. But what about you, Mama?
So you're just like 24/7.
Yeah, it's
I
like
think,
not.
Yeah, twins not sleeping whole night and the jet lag, I think so yours probably is worse than mine, but I still feel jet lag, but I'm glad to be back.
How was the trip overall? You guys both went to India. Actually, Mama, you went, but that I know it's been a while and it was a different journey for both of you. But how was going back home?
It was pretty good, but then it was sad also, so it was mixed.
What made it good? What was like sad about it?
The good in the sense it was really nice to spend time with the both sets of your grandmas, my mom and my mother-in-law. So we really spent a lot of quality time, talked about so many things, and said in a way like it's really hard to see your parents getting older.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I think for me, the purpose of the India trip was really so that our twins could meet the great grandparents, because Rahul's grandpa is still alive, and as are both of our grandmas. So for me, I always had this vision in my mind when the babies were born that we would get to meet their great grandparents. And I was just hoping that the great grandparents would be healthy enough for us to visit them. And fortunately, I think like having the kids there and meeting them was really, really special, even though the journey to India with the babies was tough and they never actually got over the time difference or the jet lag. But in the end, for me, it was very worth it to be able to meet them.
I'm really happy that you guys both got to go. I know when I went in December last year, it was also special because my grandma got to meet my fiance, soon-to-be husband, and I think those moments are really special. But I think it's also hard watching your parents or your loved ones grow older. And I think because these memories are so fresh and recent for us, for today's podcast, talking on the question of how does watching your parents grow older change the way you see them, but also ourselves, is the question that we can dive into today.
Yeah, because I just came back from India. I think one of the hardest part watching your parents grow older, at least for me, what I see, because I had a certain set version of my mom, over the years, letting that version go and adopt and accept your mom in a different way is really hard.
And when you say like you had a set vision, is it more like you're so used to seeing, we call our grandmothers Nani on the maternal side and Dadi on the paternal side. So for Nani, is it more because you're used to seeing her be such an active person and now she's more immobile?
So when I think about my mom, I think somebody very calmly doing a lot of work and very active, very creative. She is an avid reader. She draws and paints. She knits, do sewing, cooking, really organizational skill. Or even for me, when she knows when I'm coming, she will be waiting outside to see me. And now I know that she won't be waiting. I go home and her room is there and she'll be waiting for me to just, to come and, say hi, because she can't get up. She is not mobile. So both set of like my mom and mother-in-law right now is in the bed. Like, my mom, cognitively, she's very good, but her mobility is very limited. So she really cannot do things what she used to.
That makes sense. And I'm sure that transition is really difficult because even to pose this question to you, Ishana, like when you think about the parents, like, do you think about them in the current, like with the first image that pops in your mind? Is it what they are in the current version or like when we were younger?
I think it's different between Mama and Papa, to be honest. Like, I think like Mama has been the same level of like hyperness and like enthusiasm since I like remember as a little kid, and like same level of involvement. And like again, I think there's a difference between like physical change and like the mental change, right? Like I think both of our parents are still like, you know, thankfully like going back to school, right? Like at the age well above like 50 and still trying to learn. I think like the physical has been the biggest change, right? Like we used to grow up going skiing every year, and now I feel like I've in turn become more of the parent of like scared to take our parents on a ski trip because like I don't know if their bodies can handle it as much as they used to growing up. And you know, even when they come back from India, like India is a lot to go to for many reasons, and I feel like I see the aging every time they come back from a trip from India too. But that's like my thoughts.
With Mama, in terms of the physical limitations, is more of like when she's caring for the babies, like can't bend as low or like squat down to get things. Like those are like minor things, but definitely changes I have observed more recently.
I think part of it too is, and I was actually listening to one of Alex Cooper, Call Her Daddy's episodes on, it was like a Sunday session about when kids start becoming the parents, and she gave a really good example where it's like you're going on a family trip and you're in the airport, and then when you and I were little, like I never had my ticket, my passport, like never put my suitcases like on the luggage bin, and now it's like I feel like we're the ones making sure like the itinerary gets printed and everyone checks in on time, and what time do we need to go to the airport, and putting the suitcases. So I think there's like also that shift that has happened where I also care more about like how our parents are feeling as opposed to as a kid just like I want to do what I'm doing.
I think there is an aspect of, you know, the realization of that your parents are getting older or maybe not the same. So there are two aspects. I think one is seeing your parents, the physical change, which you accept it, and one is the emotionally. So, you know, for me, sometimes I can see the physically, there is a limitations for my mom, but I think accepting emotionally is really harder, even when I can see it.
You mean like accepting how you feel about seeing that, or accepting how they are emotionally feeling?
Yeah, so I think the both. So my mom, like as I was telling, that she's really, for her, organizing the pantry is a stress relief thing. Now she cannot even walk. So that's one, she cannot walk to the kitchen. She has to eat on the bed. And she just started walking just few steps up to the chair, but she cannot go to the pantry. So accepting the fact emotionally that my mom, something stress relief thing, she can't do anything about it.
To keep this in context, I think, you know, we're talking about our Dadi is 93 years old. Nani is how old? In her high 80s?
84, 85, yeah.
I will say, I think for how much they did in their 70s and 80s, generally speaking, I think is pretty impressive. Like they were still sitting crisscross applesauce, like cooking, like they were doing a lot up until the last few years, where I think the other jarring part of it is just there's been a rapid decline. Like it wasn't as gradual as I think I was expecting.
That's absolutely true, because that's what is really hard. Because every time I go, I said, okay, maybe she cannot do this. So I accept it. When I go 6 months from there, the decline is so much more. To keep accepting that the decline every time you visit is a lot.
Part of it too, I think, is this theme of dependency, right? It's almost like how the twins right now, right? They're so little that they rely on other people to do basic things, right? And as you get older, the same thing happens where as much as you want to, like they're just like things that you cannot do. And I know for both our Dadi and our Nani, like they were very like independent women who are very big into doing things on their own. And there's also that shift, right, of they now depend on other people. And a lot of those other people are loved ones and family as well. So it's hard for them to do that as much as they don't want to, but it's also like hard on us, right? Knowing that like they now depend on other people to do things.
And it's a very big change for them. Like, they also struggle to accept that because of the aging and what are the limitations they are having, and they are being dependent on them. And I know this time my mom, when she couldn't do things, it took her some time because she was so active, because it just happened so sudden. But then she started taking it more in a sense of humor and start laughing about it. And this time when Minali went with the twins, Minali and Rahul, and she said, oh, good, now I'm not the only one who is in the diaper. 3 of us will be diaper, the twins and I am. So now I feel good. And then she said, but only thing is that when they're babies, everybody loves them and want to spend more time with them. But when you get older, I think most of the time I have to be within this room in the bed, and people do try to spend that much time, but I have to figure it out what all to do within this room on lying down on this bed all day.
And just trying to think about this question more broadly, like even outside of our family, because like aging and mortality are universal. Everyone is going to experience it at some point. And I think what it really comes down to is like, how do you accept it and not necessarily move past it, but move forward? Because I feel like we could just perseverate and sort of reminisce about like the people who our parents used to be, and, how they're declining in various aspects, whether it's cognitively, physically. But at the same time, this is also a natural part of life. And so, help me sort of brainstorm here, but how do you suggest we sort of shift this mindset or reframe how we think about aging and mortality?
When I think about it, that how seeing my parents getting older, how the relationship has changed is like, I have to accept that my mom is probably the super mom, what I used to think is running around doing everything, taking care of that. I have to be more patient and try to understand her. I need to do more quality time instead of just the activities we used to do, and then listening more and, appreciate every visit. And also same time, how do I make her feel and preserve her dignity and the respect what she had, and she doesn't feel that just because of her aging and not being so mobile, she is losing that.
I think one of the tactics that if you're asking like how are ways to do it is like, as easy as it sounds, and we say this in other episodes, right, is like talking about it. Like I remember that it was like a few years ago, you were doing a thesis on mortality and death, and you were talking to like other family members about like family planning, right, like postpartum and all these things. And I remember like you made us have that conversation of how are we going to like move on, what are things that we need to do, in the case of like any of us. And I think especially for me and my mom, it was like very uncomfortable. And like, at least for me, like I was almost like avoidant of like, I don't want to like have this conversation. But it's like, to your point, if not now, then when? Because it's not like I can like not experience what it is like to like lose someone. And I think the more I don't want to say normalize, but also talk about it of like what's going to be hard and like where's the support that we're needed, it makes, I think when the moment that it happens, like, okay, there are people that I know I can rely on to like express the way that I'm feeling on both ends.
Yeah, I think that episode was, I think Minali, when you did, was dying with dignity, I think. And that was a pretty powerful, that because a lot of time people don't talk that how do you want to die.
Yeah, so this was a thesis for my master's in journalism, and it was on death and dying and end of life care as a whole. So including like palliative care and hospice services and all of that. And I spoke with a bunch of different medical providers as well as families. There are even like doulas for birth, but there's also death doulas as well, which is really interesting. But long story short of it, I think what I gained from that experience was really universally, we will all experience death at some point. It's a very difficult thought to process and talk about. But I think it's really important conversation to have because, I mean, I can tell you from someone who's in the medical field and having to guide a lot of the conversations for family members on what their loved one wants. Like, do they want 24/7 intensive medical care to keep them alive? Or, do we need to transition them to comfort care if it aligns with their goals? But a lot of times these are really challenging conversations because families haven't talked about it ahead of time. And it's really hard for loved ones to guess what another person would want in this situation if you haven't had that conversation up front. And one of the palliative care doctors who I work with basically said it's the best gift that you can give to your loved one if you tell them ahead of time how you want your end of life to look. And I was like, that's such a beautiful way of thinking about that because I didn't think about that as a gift. A lot of people just think of it more as like, oh, I'm going to burden people. But actually, it's not burdening them. It's helping.
Yeah. No, that's pretty
Pretty
powerful.
Maybe one of the things we can talk about that is like we're in a very different generation, right, than mama and like our grandparents are of just like access to taking care of our parents, like living in different cities, right? Like I think mama grew up in an environment where like it's common for everyone to live under one household. And so the idea of constant care was almost like an inevitable part. Whereas for you and I and several other people listening, right, it's like we don't even know if we're going to be close to home. Like, and I think those are some of the conversations and maybe things that keep us up at night as we watch parents grow older is like, how can we actually take care of them? Because we're at that age where we are seeing the aging and we're also old enough to want to take care of them too.
Oh, that's a good point. I mean, I think with globalization in general and geographical distance, it gets really hard because when the parents get older, right, they also want to be with their own friend group, with their own community of people. But then you are in this situation where you have to be like, all right, should I uproot, my life? Or should I try, in order to live with the parents, like have the parents move to us? But then that takes them away from their community of people, right? And their friend group. And I think it's tough to navigate. I don't know how else to put it.
It's both ways. It's a lot of adjustment. From my perspective, I will prefer to live independently, not dependent on my kids, right? Because many things like everybody has their own set of rules, requirements, and everything. It's a mental adjustment from all across, right? So, or making, as you said, the new friends group. There is a lot of things. It's not as easy as, it sounds like, okay, if you have more siblings or you have more, you can just divide those things and all of them. Each time there is an adjustment for every single one.
Yeah, and then I think what the conversation ends up being is like, who makes what adjustments, right? If you're not living in close proximity to each other, like to Ishana's point, a lot of us don't live in the same city.
So it's not like that right now, everybody gets older, right? Because I'm not the same person when I left my home. I might have thought about my parents, I'm going to do this, but I have my own family. You guys will have the same way, right? So it's a chain.
And I think when you're helping your parents, and Mama, to your point too, like you would, in an ideal world, like to live independently. So it's also the balance of how do we take care of our parents, but also still let them live with dignity when the reality is they are limited.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this shouldn't be the sole responsibility of one person. I mean, I can tell you that even with childcare too, right? Like I can't be the only person watching the kids 24/7. It's just not possible or practical. And I think in a very similar way, elderly care is also a full-time job. And I think sometimes you do have to outsource help. You can't do it alone, right? So home nursing aides. And, I think there's a lot of taboo about this, even especially within the Indian community, but nursing homes and living communities, because, yeah, to me, like, it doesn't sit well, the idea of like my parents living in a nursing home when I should be able to like care for them at home. But I think everyone has certain limitations of like what they can or can't do. And so, like, for some people, the nursing home may be the only possibility. I'm just trying to think about like what are ways that people get help for some of the elderly care that's necessary.
But in your thesis and research and talking with people, right? Like, what are the solutions in this country? Like, we don't have the level of care that I think, you know, when we go to India and we see how our grandparents are taken care of. I have like never seen that there, or there's like this insurance or there's a price that comes with it. Like, are there solutions to have elderly care be comfortable and not being in care where it's like a white wall and like you just like feel like you're in jail?
Oh, there are. They also come with like large price tags. So like a lot of the options are not even accessible to a lot of people because, like, for example, like private home nurse aides that come to the home, very expensive. Like, ideal because it's like your parents wouldn't have to go somewhere else, but it is very expensive. And even similarly within like nursing homes and like living communities, I mean, there's huge quality differences. And the quality differences are also in line with the differences, I think, in like how expensive things are. And like some people just can't afford those kinds of facilities. But yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, I don't think there's good solutions. I know some people who are just like, they end up not having jobs and just either doing like childcare, elderly care around the clock kind of thing.
I definitely think there is not a perfect solution. What I know in India, the help can come home, but still it's not that easy. There is a very different range of variety of things, right? Maybe some are pricey, some are not that level of service. So it's everywhere. It's everywhere. I think elderly care is challenging. See, you have to also think that elderly care is not substitute of what you can do for your parents. When we compare that, when we have a mindset that it's just to ease the load and the help, but you cannot expect that caretaker or attendant is going to give the love and the care, affection, what you want or what you would do.
They won't like that. They won't be the same as you providing that care. Right. But Mama, to your point too, like some of the decisions that have to be weighed, very similar to if you decide to be a stay-at-home parent, when your children are born and you provide that 100% care, is when your parents get older. And if you're the one who's providing that elderly care around the clock, would that be something that you would be able to accept? Like, would you get burned out? Like, what kind of support would you need in order to do that role well?
Absolutely.
So as we wrap this up, that I'm curious your thoughts of it. There are definitely, I think, certain moments that are true signs of us knowing our parents are aging and then clearly actioning on it differently than we would as children. So maybe we can talk about some of those examples and see if anyone else relates. One of them directly coming into my head is I no longer ask my dad to help change the light bulb or pack up my storage unit and help move things because I don't want him to hurt his back. I just directly go and pay for movers at this point.
Well, one thing that I've told my dad like multiple times, but like he's not going to listen, is like the pickleball obsession that he has.
Yes.
Like, I don't.
Yes.
Like he just plays pickleball so much, and he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm fine, and he's like limping around and like still playing pickleball.
And there's been moments where he like dives deep to get the ball too, and I'm like, what is the outcome of this realistically going to be?
But pickleball is life. This is like kind of funny, but like you can tell your parents as many like good habits and things that they should or should not be doing. But at the end of the day, they're just as stubborn as we are, and they're going to do what they want to do. And like, there's only so much you can say to them. You know
I know for my mom, well, now she cannot sit and watch the TV, but I think 6 months back, she watched TV for 2.5 hours and her back hurt so much. And then everybody asked, did you watch TV? She said, little bit, little. And they said, how long? She said, 2 hours. And then for next 6 days, she couldn't get up.
You gotta let them live, but it's like you're doing this to yourself for some of the
Yep.
things too.
Yep, exactly. Or like the indigestion part of things. It's like, don't eat that like with the chutney, with like the added, like mirchi spices, like whatever. Like, don't eat that. It's gonna mess up your stomach. But no, like you know what I mean? It's like the parents are gonna do what they want to do, just like we're gonna do ultimately what we want to do. Like we listen to them for guidance, and like I'm sure if something really serious like was there, they would listen and at least try to hear us out. But at the end of the day, I think people are gonna live the life that they want.
Great. So, as usual, we always do takeaways from each of the episodes. So, would love to hear what each of us thought coming out of this conversation.
I won't add chutneys anymore.
So my takeaway is that I like thinking about this with the perspective of aging is a very natural, normal process that we will all experience. But how you accept and go about it can make a huge difference. And, part of that is giving your parents like the space and respect and dignity that they deserve. And that may take some time, but I think that's okay. And I think the other part to normalize is it's expected and true to feel uncomfortable and to feel sad. Like, it's not happy to see your parents aging, but by changing the mindset of how you approach aging and like how you try to openly talk about this with your loved ones, I think can really make a world of a difference, especially when it does come to end of life care.
I feel like that was a summary, not a takeaway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it was good.
Yeah, that was good. I echo what you said, but like I definitely feel like there were certain parts of this conversation that I felt uncomfortable with, just because to me, even saying the word death is just like I don't want to be thinking about these things, even though I know as a family, like we are forced to. So my takeaway is like, I hope that, there's other people who are listening to this that relate to the fact that it's uncomfortable for all of us, and that
it's whether super icky and gross to talk about.
And whether it's like your sibling, your family member, like there is a community of support, right? Like if anything, there are a few things in this world that I think we are all similar in, and this is one of those few things. So like no one is ever alone in this process of watching your parents age.
Apart from the chutney thing, I do want to say that the aging is always not a bad thing. I think I feel very grateful that I have my mom and my mother-in-law. So it's a very normal process. And then if you have elderly, it's a blessing, and be patient and spend whatever the time you can with them.
Great. Well, thank you so much for listening to 3 Takes. We'd love to get your thoughts and feedback on this episode. You can reach out to us on Instagram at 3.takes, visit our website at 3takes.com, or email us at connect@3takes.com.
Thanks for joining us on 3 Takes. If something we shared sparked a new thought or opened up a conversation with someone you love, we want to hear about it. DM us on Instagram at 3.takes, email us at connect@3takes.com, or visit us at www.3takes.com. And if this episode meant something to you, share it with another mother, daughter, or sister in your life. It's how we grow and keep the stories moving.